this summer, Governor Lamont vetoed a bill dealing with pay for restaurant workers.
So the bill would have brought together the Department of Labor, restaurant owners, and lawmakers to make a state law that would get everyone on the same page when it comes to regulations on wages for servers and bartenders. This is complicated, but waitstaff generally make tips and don't earn the full minimum wage because of that. But what happens if they need to fill a salt shaker? That's at the core of this issue.
Yeah, that's not, well, that could be related to service, but the issue here is the Department of Labor had put out some guidelines for restaurants to follow with regard to work duties. However, more than a dozen lawsuits have sprung up saying restaurants are not following the law. And we're going to break it down now and try to get some better understanding. It is complicated, but we have a restaurant owner here, David Rutigliano, who also happens to be a 4-term state representative.
Yes.
For the town of Trumbull. Thanks for being on. All right, so what's the issue? These lawsuits are saying, people are saying they weren't paid enough because they should have been paid minimum wage for certain work?
The heart of the issue is that restaurants for generations have been following Connecticut Department of Labor guidelines that they put in written form that most of us use. And what happened was, with this bill, we tried to codify that in legislation. So this was a bipartisan bill, had full support of the Speaker and the Majority Leader that was on previous to me. And we are really at a loss at why the governor vetoed it. So what the bill intended to do was sort of straighten out how people are paid. When you're a server, you get to make less than minimum wage as long as you make enough tips to put you at or over above minimum wage. The vast majority of servers make well above the minimum wage, and all tips are fully taxable income. It's really about other work related to service. Do you have to punch out as a server and punch back in under minimum wage if you're filling a salt shaker? Are you rolling silverware, getting ketchup, things like that? The Department of Labor previously said as long as 80% of your work-related duties are directly service to the customer, then you don't have to keep track of all the incidentals. A lawyer and a judge went to court and they reinterpreted that law.
And it's cost restaurants a lot of money defending these lawsuits, right?
There are several Connecticut restaurants that are under lawsuits right now.
Oh boy.
What's the impact if a compromise isn't created?
Well, what happens is we've lost certainty in our marketplace. All these restaurants for all these years have been following guidelines, trying to do the right thing, and taking care of their employees, paying them correctly. So now it's uncertainty. People don't know how to react in the market. They also don't know whether or not they're going to be subject to a lawsuit over guidelines that they thought they were following.
These guidelines, though, got taken off the website, right? The state website. They were up there, right? And they're no longer on there, as I understand it?
Yeah, December of last year, the Department of Labor went and decided to remove guidelines that they actually printed. If you could see it, it's their guidelines. It's from the Department of Labor. And it really just codified what most restaurants have been doing, really, for decades.
Now, so the legislature in the House, the Speaker and so on, they're trying to override the governor's veto. Why did the governor veto this in the first place? The governor,
I'm not sure, you'd have to ask him directly. My impression of why he vetoed is that he thought that there were some retroactivity parts of it that he was uncomfortable with.
Meaning
well, it could have applied to current lawsuits. What the legislator was trying to do was sort of give a lifeline to some of these people that are getting sued for following regulations that the Department of Labor put out. So the law said, hey, listen, if you're under current lawsuit, you could look to these regulations as, if you follow these, you should be okay. If you didn't, then you're still subject to...
So are these lawsuits saying that a restaurant should separate the work for a worker? I'm a former waitress. I spent years waitressing, and I think that would be really difficult to do. I mean, I would polish the wine glasses because they were at my table. I would fill the salt shaker. I mean, these are just part of kind of the duties of what you were doing if you're a server.
Incidental to service. That's always been the guide. As long as it's part of the service experience, then it should be included in the tipped wage. My best example I have is like this. If you're a bartender and you run out of vodka, it's okay for you to go to the storeroom and get a bottle. It is not okay for you to unload the truck that the vodka was delivered on.
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right, so right now there are negotiations either about to get underway or are underway to try to, because they didn't vote, they decided not to vote to override. So they're trying to work out a deal.
The group comes together and we can come up with a compromise and try to solve this problem and really protect Connecticut restaurants. The governor has an opportunity, or he had an opportunity, to take care of a business that asks for nothing. It's an industry. The hospitality industry in Connecticut generates hundreds of millions of dollars in tax revenue, employs 165,000 people, and never asks the government for a dime. He has the Economic Development Department out there giving money to large companies trying to beg them to come here to Connecticut. We're already here. We need your help. We're hoping the governor helps us.
Representative Rutigliano, thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks for
And
having me.
explaining this to us. Appreciate it.
Yes.